o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order. Clerk Slater, please call the roll.
Trustee Rissy.
Here.
Trustee Nordhook.
Here.
Supervisor Westbrook.
Here.
Treasurer Corstange.
Here.
Trustee Nordike.
Present.
Trustee Shipley.
Present.
And Clerk Slater here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is there a motion or discussion to approve tonight's agenda?
Shipley makes motion to approve the agenda as presented. Support.
The motion by trustee Shipley, supported by trustee Rizzi to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have one presentation this evening. We have both of our community policing officers here to just give us an overview of community happenings as far as public safety and law enforcement. Before Deputy Omar Diapa and Catherine Chase come up, Jade, any?
No, periodically they'll come in and give an update on the status of crimes and statistics in Cascade, answer any questions for you, and just make sure that they're known, that they're accessible. So I'll turn over to Omar and Kate.
And public comments follow this, so it's a good time if people do want to talk directly and ask questions. We'll just have it done right after their presentation.
Should be able to just slide straight up to the right. From the top.
Now we just need you at a Cascade coffee shop.
I was thinking the same thing.
Keep going, keep going, keep going. Right there.
Oh, took both of us. All right, I'm Deputy Kate Chase Opoff. Obviously, you know Omar. We're here to just introduce ourselves. Obviously, there's perhaps some of you that have not interacted with us before. Tell you a little bit about ourselves, what we offer in terms of services and how we aid our road patrol deputies out here, and then our current statistics. So I was born and raised in the area. Folks grew up right in the heart of Forest Hills, still live in the area. I now reside in Ada. I've spent the last 14 years at the sheriff's office. I did half of my career as a 911 and emergency communications operator, the other half on the road patrol or law enforcement side. My background is heavily rooted in teaching and coaching. I am very involved in defensive tactics training, self-defense. I'm a firearms instructor. So I'm also pretty well utilized by our training unit at the department, and I teach at CC along with Omar.
Good evening. My name is Omar Diapa. I've been with the sheriff's office for 10 years. Prior to that, I did 3 years at Grand Valley State University as a police officer. Worked out east in particular for most of my road patrol career at the sheriff's office. Absolutely loved this community, loved the agreement between the townships for the East Precinct, including Ada, Grand Rapids Township, Cascade, Lowell, and Virgins. And then I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to come and work in community services. Like Kate said, we both love the education aspect of this. We give a lot of presentations, heavily involved in the recruitment from the academies. Give a lot of, I spent 6 of my hours just today at the academies talking about domestics. So we enjoyed that aspect of it. My niche here at the sheriff's office, very well-rounded in SFSTs, which is your standardized field sobriety tests. And then I also teach people how to look for people under the influence of narcotics, illegal or legal substances, and we're getting prosecution for those people. So my niche is just impaired driving in general.
There we go. So we're very lucky in this area in the East Precinct. We're pretty heavily staffed in terms of our road patrol division. One of the things that we are able to assist our road patrol deputies with is those calls that don't really have a clear-cut criminal element. You guys have probably had folks come into the township expressing concerns about things like neighbor disputes, property line disputes. People get very testy about a couple things I've found in this position: property lines, dogs, anything to involve their children. Those are kind of the hot button topics. So that's where we come in. We're able to kind of provide a holistic approach to those calls, sit down with both parties, act as a mediator, and stop the continued calls from occurring and exhausting our road patrol. As Omar mentioned, we love the opportunity to provide trainings to the community. We churn out our active shooter or civilian response to active shooter presentations throughout the year. We're both SEPTED certified, so we're able to give businesses of a variety of sizes assessments to ensure that they're keeping their employees safe, but any customer base as well. We offer de-escalation training, really a vast assortment of trainings to the public, as well as, of course, our ordinance enforcement. So this is kicking off the statistics, the recent statistics for Cascade Township specifically. About 7,300 calls for service. That seems like a lot, right? That seems like a scary number. That is essentially any call that comes into our township. So being that there's also a highway within the township, that is MSP's calls for service as well. That's any medical broadcast, any fire event, as well as all of our proactive events as well. I just added this in here. That is not a Cascade Township fire truck, just so you all know. And we don't drive those trucks on a regular basis. As I mentioned, our deputies are very proactive in this township. The 28th Street corridor is kind of a great spot for that, being that it's so densely populated. We have larger businesses, the hotels. So upwards of 36% of the calls, that 7,300 number, was our proactivity, which is great. Oh, I lost it again.
So next, we were asked to talk about hotel stats. Obviously, that's one of our biggest issues that we're seeing right now, and we're going through the whole licensing. So of that 7,300 calls for service, 552 of those calls were generated at our hotels. Of those, 82 were, again, proactive calls. So that is deputy making a traffic stop and actually pulling into one of the hotels along the 28th Street corridor. So overall, 7% of calls, if you include traffic stops, were actually at our hotels. Only 6% of the calls if you take away the proactivity from law enforcement. So makes me feel a little bit better. Still a high number, still want that to obviously to go down a lot, but 6% of calls total are generated at our hotels. Top 3 calls for service, if that interests you. Number 3 was assaults, and that includes our domestic. So anytime we go to spousal abuse, that is all included. So it's not just people battering one another. Then it's obstructing justice. And this one's kind of unique. And I was actually surprised to see it, but that speaks on our proactivity. That is people that are typically wanted for warrants. So number 2 call for service are our deputies proactively stopping vehicles or making contact with these individuals within Cascade Township and actually apprehending them. That doesn't mean that they did anything criminal within Cascade Township. That could be people visiting Cascade Township or passing through that we happen to stop for any violation, and we're able to apprehend them. Number 1, I don't think there's going to be any surprise to anybody. These are retail frauds. We've got a large number of retailers along 28th Street, and they are just getting abused. So we've talked about this. This is something we've looked into. We're working closely with a lot of our high-end stores, and we're obviously trying to curtail that a little bit. Some of our crime trends, and again, when Kate brought up that number, that's within the past year. So January of 2024 through January of 2025, this is all 1 year. So if we look back just to kind of see where the trend's going, back in 2021, it was actually our highest, just over 1,000 criminal complaints. So out of the 7,300 calls for service, only 1,000 of those, a crime was actually committed. So when she says that a lot of it's just broadcast or just general assists, it actually goes down quite a bit, which is a good number. Not a great number, it's just a better number. 2022, it dropped a little bit. We were just over 1,000. 2023, we went up a little bit to 1,035. And just this past year, happy to see that the number actually dropped below 1,000. So last year, in the past 3 years, has been the lowest. And then we just gave this similar presentation to Grand Rapids Township, and it was the exact same. It dropped about 100 criminal complaints in the past year. So the East Precinct as a whole, just between those two in particular, we dropped nearly 200 criminal complaints. So that's great. Crime clearance. Now, kind of explain this away. Of all of the crimes this past year, from January 2024 to January 2025, every criminal complaint we took, our agency was able to clear 39. That is us identifying a suspect and actually getting criminal charges. The number seems extremely low, but if you think about this, somebody might call us and say, hey, woke up to my tire slashed, my mailbox damaged, somebody running over the curb that we take as a malicious destruction of property. It's very, very difficult to find those individuals. We take fraud complaints that are over the phone where a suspect might be overseas. It's difficult for us to track those individuals down. So if you look at it like that, this number we're actually kind of proud of, because to you, it might seem, oh man, I wish we could catch everybody. It's very, very difficult, right? So it's actually a great number. Additionally, this number does not include the individuals that weren't necessarily apprehended. So there's a lot of open complaints that we were able to find a suspect for it, and we're still actively trying to interview them, or we've gotten warrants for them. They just haven't necessarily been apprehended, so it didn't clear. That kind of brings us to this. If you have any questions about anything we've covered, the one big thing I guess I'll kind of quick hit on is as far as the licensing. Jay had asked if we kind of just bring that up. Right now, I'm sure all you guys are familiar with that process. We've only licensed one, so it's difficult for us to have data to show whether or not this whole process is working. What I can say is most of the hotels, when we are identifying issues, they're running to Kate and I and saying, hey, what do we need to do to remedy this now? Because they know that the license is being held over their head. So we had one particular complaint at one of our hotels that we have a lot of issues at. I won't name it, but there was a complaint that came into us. One of our deputies said, hey, you need to go look into this. It sounds like the heating's broken, and that somebody at the front desk is actually giving this person a very good deal for them because the heat's broken. They then called us, and then that individual was shivering in his room. So once we got that complaint, we immediately went to that hotel, spoke with the owner of that hotel, and he's like, absolutely not. I want you to come here now. I will prove to you that not only was it working at that time, I will have my person interviewed in front of you, working that front desk. I can guarantee that didn't happen. And they were able to prove that that was a erroneous allegation. So they are quickly coming to the both of us. It's been a couple of other instances. They know that that license is kind of dangling over their head. So they're doing very well. They're trying their best to make up for all the issues that we've identified when we were doing the licensing. So I can't speak on the numbers at this point, but I do know that they are responding in a positive manner. Most of them are, for sure.
Just to help understand better, you said that we've issued one license.
From my understanding, it's
Yep.
been one, right?
But Manager Smith, can you comment on, it just sounds slow and low of the number, but can you comment on or explain what has to be done to get the license in the first place and why the other hotels are not receiving their licenses yet?
Yep,
And
I
why the
think-
delay? Who's
Yeah.
responsible?
Yep. I think Omar hit it on the head too. We're trying to make up for years of bad practices in the matter of 6 months, and that's just, it's a process we have to go through. And the requirements, we can show you the requirements that we put together for the policy of what they have to submit to actually be approved, and the inspections that have to be done, the types of business plans, the kind of security measures. We're going back to their site plans that have gone, they haven't had to enforce their site plans since they probably opened their doors. A lot of them have issues with their outdoor spaces, like their pools and their recreation spaces. So all of those things are going to take some time, but we do have, like we said, we have the one that really, they didn't have a lot of amenities to begin with. So I think it was easier for them to do that. Some of the bigger ones have more amenities. And there are some things that are happening that they're getting the hint. I know, Kate, you sent me an email just yesterday on an issue with school buses, but we had a particular hotel that put out a notice to the schools and said the school buses could no longer come to their properties. And I confirmed with the hotel owner that they were the ones that sent that to the schools.
Because hotels are not long-term
Correct.
residences.
And they
Hotels
wanted,
are
they
short-term
applied for a
stay.
long-term license. They do not qualify. They did not get one. Hence, there was an issue because they actually called because the bus came back and was trespassing. Is that what?
I think the concern was brought to the school resource officer, so we were just trying to brainstorm as to like short-term solutions.
Okay,
Being that if the bus were to stop on 28th Street, that's gonna cause
Yep.
upset with residents and some traffic concerns.
because they
as
had,
well.
yeah, they put out notice to the schools. They could no longer come on their property as of March 1st.
Do we have any, or are any of the hotels not compliant, not making the effort to do what they need to be issued the license?
They are all making progress. I can say that 100%. It's even the ones that we had some serious concerns with, for sure.
One in particular that we've had a lot of issues at actually reached out to me this past week. The township responded to our inspections. All the inspections for every hotel has been completed, the original inspection. Any issue we found, it's been discussed internally at the township. They've gotten letters saying this is what you failed. And one in particular got a hold of me and said, hey, can you please elaborate on what this says from the township? So again, to speak on their cooperation, they're reaching out saying, what do I need to do so I'm not failing your safety inspection?
Which is a 180 from in years past before this ordinance, they thumbed their nose and
Huge
their
180.
business model was cheap, long-term, not our problem.
You bet.
Cascade pays for law enforcement.
Yeah, most
And
of
this
these have been
is-
identified already and they just were like, hey, we're not gonna invest in that.
Just so people understand too, are there any other communities in the county that have a similar licensing process to us?
I'll let Jade speak on, from my understanding, it's unique.
It's unique. Yeah, I think it's probably actually unique within the state when I worked with the attorney on it when we put it together. Battle Creek has one. There's another one on the east side, but they were not nearly as, didn't have as
Thorough.
much teeth as ours does. Call it coincidence. It's too early to say right now, but we've had quite a few calls in the last 3 weeks in regards to developers wanting to redevelop some of the sites.
Mhm.
So I think that's, I don't know if word just gotten out or people are, I don't know. It could be coincidence, but we haven't seen anything formally come through yet.
Can you, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. A few questions. First of all, thank you so much for your service and what you do for the township. You talked about assaults. If you remove domestic assault from that, like of the 93, let's say like how many of them are higher than say felonious assault? You know, like I'm just trying to get a sense of like how much.
I don't have an
violence we
exact
have.
number, but it's very infrequent. We don't
Yeah.
see a lot of felonious assaults where there's
Or
weapons
above,
involved.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, most of the ones that are in there, I could even give you exact numbers if I ran it. Most of them are going to be simple domestics of pushing, shoving, punching. We don't see a lot of them. Are they out there? Sure, absolutely. Somebody might pull a weapon on somebody else, but it's few and far between.
Like simple and aggravated type stuff. then.
Correct.
Wonderful. Okay, and what do you need more of from the township and what do you need less of from the township?
Ooh, put me on the spot. That's a great question. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. We've tried a couple of different things over the past years. The township's put some money in having extra patrols, high visibility just in neighborhoods and just targeting the 28th Street corridor. It's helped. It absolutely has helped. But like anything, you do that, you have those resources out, they see us, things start to kind of dwindle. And then as soon as that money's washed up a little bit, then it kind of spikes a little bit. So it's a good question. That's something I'd be happy to look into to
Yeah.
figure out. So we appreciate the support for sure.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor.
I just have one question. Your statistic on 39% crimes in which a suspect was identified, did that include the retail?
It does include retail. So the difficult things with retail, just to
No, I know the difficult.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen.
And that's another hard thing for us too, is right now we're really pushing the video surveillance and using that technology, but a lot of these big retailers, they won't
just-
put it in for
I,
corporate.
like I
So
said, I've seen it. I've been in
It's
Dick's
so
and
hard.
had some guy say, excuse me, to me and my son as he walked by with a bag full
100%.
of stuff, and they try, but they don't even leave their cars there. They know the game and they just keep walking and walking and walking,
Sure
and
do.
there's no way to even identify a vehicle to drive.
and most of the time the vehicle won't have a plate on it, or it's stolen, or it's registered to somebody that's not going to be cooperative with us. It's
Right, so
very,
that's
very
what that
difficult.
39% is a not a bad number. I mean, because that's a huge amount of our crime, and those are really hard to catch and
For sure.
identify subjects. So
Absolutely.
So the East Precinct, can you or Jade just briefly hit on what our baseline Kent County Sheriff's Patrol covers, and then what the 3 townships that make up the East Precinct did in addition to? Does that make sense? I wasn't clear to me before I started, but
It was here before I started too.
I know.
It's Ada Township, Grand Rapids Township, Cascade that have our community policing officers. We still have the road patrol, but we all have dedicated dollars that go into support dedicated service for those 3 communities, which not every community does. I'm sure from an internal perspective, you guys could probably share on how like a Lowell Township is covered differently than these 3 that we're actually paying for specific service. And I think some of it goes back to, I think the communities were aligned and a lot alike and are a lot alike. And that's why the initiative was years ago to go down that path. But I don't have the specifics as to what
So we have-
created it.
so unlike the cities that have their own police
Yeah.
departments, public safety departments, all the townships, just like our roads, the
Oh,
county.
Sorry, I missed that part. Yes.
No, this is probably, I'm probably talking to myself. All the townships they get their public safety from the Kent County Sheriff's Department. In
Right.
addition, so that's a baseline, we get it no matter what, right? But the East Precinct then was the 3 townships, Cascade, Ada, and Grand Rapids Township that have similar demographics, got together, and then on top of that basic county public safety that just comes with being a township, hired an additional full-time community policing officer from the sheriff's department that would then stay within our 3 precincts. So additional coverage, correct?
Correct.
Then Kate, when did you start?
2023.
So what is it now, 2025? So you've been there 1.5 years, 2 years ago, we talked about the 3 townships got together and then pooled money together, agreed that we're going to bring on 1 more full-time. So now the 3 townships have, in addition to our basic patrol, 2 full-time additional. Do you guys ever leave the township? 3 townships that much?
We do. We supplement other places if they need us for whatever it may be, events, help, we'll go there. But then the agreement is that we get you when we've got big things too. So we kind of pull them over to our township and they help out here as well.
Okay.
Yep, so it's mutual.
And then we're paying, we were paying for how much just additional hourly patrol specific to Cascade Township? It's been a while.
So just to kind of break,
Actually, presence, because really it was high visibility patrol in Cascade, Thornapple River Drive, different places.
yeah, just to kind of elaborate a little bit further. So the 3 townships have a dedicated deputy specifically assigned to theirs, but the unique aspect for the East Precinct is usually if I'm assigned to Ada Township and I'm working road patrol, I would be stuck in that township. That's my little box for the shift. And my help is going to be covered by a district vehicle, and that district vehicle can cover all 5 East Precinct townships. What's unique here is the agreement between the 3 townships was, even though you're assigned Ada Township, we're going to work together as a unit, and you 3 deputies for those 3 in particular townships, you can rotate as you wish between those 3 townships, and then your districts are 2 additional supplements. So we have 5 at any given time, in addition to Kate and I, Monday through Friday. And then we have a K9 that's out there normally. So they are supplemental patrols on top of it. But Lowell and Virgin's included in the East Precinct. They don't have a designated deputy. We supplement them with district vehicles, but most calls don't get generated out there. So they hang out here and only respond if need be. Yep. And then obviously Kate and I, when we're not doing anything CP related, we supplement calls for service. So we'll go out and be real police from time to time, make stops and take calls and kind of help those guys out. Especially at the summertime, things get busy and they need a hand as well. And we want to keep up on our training as well too. We can't just be hanging out, handing out stickers all the time, right?
Any updates on smash and grabs or current crime trends that you see making the rounds throughout the county?
You know what? It's funny you bring that up. Not funny, but ironic. This past week, we did have a couple that started at Rec Park. We had 2 vehicles that were broken into. We're going to have to start pushing our Lock It or Lose It campaign. We're going to go out there. We've talked a little bit with parks guys. We talked it up with Jade one time about getting video surveillance.
Yep.
So that's something that I hope that we can have a discussion about, but warm weather hits and that stuff starts coming back. So over the winter time, it was nothing. And I just called Ryan this week and said, hey, we had 2 in here on Sunday. We got to get those cameras back up there and start looking for these. So we'll start doing some patrols around there as well.
And just based on past experience, what's the pattern or who's doing those when and what's the pattern?
Yeah. From my experience, we're getting youth from the city that come out here because we have complacent residents that leave purses in their vehicles. And they'll quick smash the window, steal the purse, and then go to a quick retailer, use a debit card to purchase iTunes gift cards or Visa gift cards. And then those are untraceable and they just ditch the property. So I don't want to victim blame, but a lot of it is us unfortunately leaving items in our vehicles. I get it. That's why we have great residents here, is we become complacent. We haven't seen a lot of issues. So we leave our cars unlocked or leave our keys in our cars, and then people are coming into our areas and kind of taking advantage.
What's the most dangerous place in Cascade Township?
Ooh. Dangerous place?
I have my guess, but I'm just curious.
The township board.
I have a guess too.
All bark, no bite.
Yeah, it's hard. Some of these hotels are probably dangerous. I'd be honest by saying that, I'm sure.
You could say the same from like a particular intersection, though. It just depends on like what you're looking at in terms of like a hazard.
Right.
Sure.
Accidents.
Oh, for sure.
Right. I was thinking more like danger and criminal. My guess was Meyer parking lot. If you're not checking into one of those hotels or hanging out there.
It's probably a good spot to start for sure.
Any unsolved murders in Cascade Township?
I can say no, happily.
There is, remember the Sentinel Point one? It's a cold case.
Oh, yeah, the cold case, sure. I'm thinking recent. We haven't
Oh,
had
sorry.
any recent. No. Nope. Thank goodness. The one we had a couple years back, that was solved very quickly. So I'm happy to say that.
Thank you for making the rounds and coming in
Yeah,
person.
Very
If you're
well.
able, could you stick around just in case anyone in the
bet.
audience has questions?
Happy to do it. Very
Just
nice
right
to
now,
meet
you don't
all.
have to stay the whole meeting. Thank
You
you.
bet. Yep, you're welcome.
Article 5, public comments. So now is the time, we've got a short agenda today, but to comment on anything that's already on tonight's agenda.
Ken Vanderkalk, 7200 Layton. I'd like to thank the officers. I think they're doing a fine job. I've seen a lot more blue lights flashing around the county in the last year, or around the township in the last year than I have the whole time I lived here. So I'm very proud of that. We're making progress on the hotels. And one has got a license. What, do we have a time limit when they have to have a license? Or are we just gonna let them go on for ever and ever and ever?
Yeah, I mean, there was a deadline as to when they were supposed to be in effect and have their first application in regards to a deadline of when they have to have the license. If they're working towards that, we want compliance. We don't want to penalize. So we're working towards compliance as long as they're making progress and they're reaching out to the sheriff's office, working out to us, we're reaching out to us and working with us on that. We're going to continue to work that way.
Well, what is the deadline?
They're,
What is, you have a time
They
limit
had
set
to apply by October 1st of last year. There's no deadline that they say.
when they have to have a license, so they
They have
can
to have
drag it
one.
on for years and years and years.
No, that's not how this works.
I know, but
What I just said was, as they work towards compliance and we get compliance and have a good working relationship with them, we will continue to work with them. We're not going to go out and give people a ticket. It's a very hefty fine. We've talked about it with the attorneys to make sure that when we assess that fine, that it is going to stand up. So I mean, if you saw the amount of information that they had to turn in, and they had to basically, some of these are recreating their entire business model because of what we're requiring.
but I can make a little bit of progress and a little bit of progress and a little bit of progress year after year after
I don't know,
year.
if I got my biggest offender in the community sending a letter to the schools to stop how they're practicing and how they're renting out and changing their business model, I look at that as progress. But I'll leave that up to my 7
And active,
just to let me know how that.
active compliance is what we're looking for, but everything's a balance. We're the only we're the only municipality that has adopted such a proactive kind of, I wouldn't even call it aggressive because it's not aggressive, but a hotel ordinance of this kind. So it took a while to draft carefully because we were expecting a legal challenge to it. And then the same thing, we have to be reasonable in our expectations, proactive and firm, but at the same time, no one has sued us yet, but we were not surprised if we, that's a very reasonable, likely thing to happen. So we have to be smart stewards of township dollars. And if we're just jerking people around, then that's not going to look good when they challenge us. So everything's a balance.
But without jerking anybody around, have you got a time limit set? Have you got 3 years?
So in the compliance letters that we send them, when they have violations, they have a set amount of time to complete whatever the violation is. Then we go out and we do a reinspection. If we go out and do the reinspection and it fails, then there's going to be a fine issued. We have not gotten to that point yet. So when we send the letters, it actually has due dates of when they have to comply, but that doesn't mean I'm going to issue a license.
Oh, okay.
It means they have to comply with that step.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, thanks for having us here tonight. And thanks for what you're doing in the township. Really appreciate the safety in our township, Officer Omar and Catherine. Means a lot living in Cascade, been here for 19 years, and having a safe community means a lot. So the resources, adding additional officers, I'm glad that we have that, and I hope that always continues. So,
Also,
thank you.
just for the clerk's record keeping, could
Oh,
we
yeah.
get your name? And
Rich Shafsma, 2471 Burton Woods Court.
thank you.
My name's Mary Ann Shafsma and I live with that guy, same address, and I'm really honored to be here. And I'm so thankful for everything you're doing because we live by this park that has just been the subject of so much happening, Burton and whatever, but it's awesome. And it's just, I was just there today and I met two people, I want to say octogenarian, does that mean they're in their 80s? And they were walking and they were just delightful. And they were so thankful that the closer entrance was open because they can't walk that far to go up the street if you're coming up the side off Thornapple. And they were like, this is such a blessing. And it's just really nice to see. And I was worried about their health, yada, yada, and I was happy to see them out. But my questions or comments were really regarding the two police or the sheriffs. And I was really happy that you were here. I was just curious. Can I ask them a question? Do I have to stand up here? What, you're the
Nope, go
boss.
ahead.
What say you? Or
Oh,
you're
she's
the
the
boss.
boss.
Okay, sorry. What do I do?
Pretend that.
Do you
just
say
for
you're
the-
pretending?
Instead of looking at us, we'd appreciate it if you
Okay.
answer some questions.
Yeah,
of
I
them.
just wasn't sure how to
The
do
harder,
this.
the better.
No, I wasn't really quite, I'm very thankful to get the information and so thankful for you and everything you're doing to keep us safe, right? And to be vigilant and looking and all of this. But I was curious because I was trying to jot down some numbers and I have something like 493 assaults, something in retail, 552, was that traffic? Your 552 from your slide?
That is how many calls for service.
Calls for service. So what I noticed though is if I added those up, if I added the 493, hotel 6%, which is about 65 out of the 7,385 total. What is the biggest thing people are calling about? That was what I was curious. If it's because the 493 I thought were calls for assault, something in retail issues. So all of these things added up, like the few numbers that I had, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot. My question just was, what's the biggest thing that you're getting the calls for? Because the numbers that I have written down are about 1,100. And I understood it was maybe 1,200, 7,000. So what's our big, if I can ask, if that's too weird.
So that large number, the 7,000 number, it encompasses literally every call for service. So that could be a broadcast from the reckless driver where no officer is sent out. It's just two cars that, whether they're in the area, they could respond, otherwise it's informational. It could be a broadcast sent out to police units in the area regarding a medical that we wouldn't typically respond to. So it encompasses police, fire, EMS, everything as well as calls on our highways.
Okay,
So that's
so
why-
there isn't like one thing that we know of that's the biggest percentage of that 7,000. That was just my question. I was just curious, like just what's what's driving that. It's a high number when you compare the other ones that are broken down. Yeah.
You see medical calls and that would likely be high. I can't tell you for.
No, that's
certain
okay. And I wasn't
what
trying to be like, oh, what, you know, I was just curious. Because the hotel, I mean, obviously is a great concern, but it's about 65 out of that number. But that doesn't mean it's not important. So that. And I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other public comments in person or virtually? Article 6, approval of consent agenda. Any discussion? I have one. For the, and Clerk Slater, I apologize, I didn't read it soon enough to get you this before. Township Board meeting, February 26th. So A1. Article 13, supervisor, and this is board member comments. 2 sentences. It says Supervisor Lesbrance responded regarding how the range for salaries was reached. My preference would be take out responded regarding and just say surmised, because the point was we didn't get together beforehand outside the public and make any decisions or figure anything out. And then the second sentence or half, it was recently learned retroactive compensation is not legal for elected officials. I would like it removed, the phrase it was recently learned, and instead replace it with agreed with Mr. Katsarelis that, finish the rest. And also said that it is not, that it's
effective the date of the meeting.
just to clarify.
I'll make a motion to approve with those corrections.
Shipley supports.
It's a motion by Treasurer Corstange to approve
Consent agenda.
the consent agenda with those 2 changes to the February 26th board meeting minutes, supported by Trustee Shipley. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Article 7, financial actions, discussion or motion.
Shipley makes a motion to approve the financial actions. A, request for invoices to be paid on 3/13, and B, financial statements of January 2025.
Support. It's a motion by Trustee Shipley, supported by Treasurer Corstange to approve tonight's financial actions. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Having no unfinished business, Article 9, Item 019-2025, consider approval of 2025 Independence Day budget. Manager Smith?
Thank you. So just to clarify, the word didn't get updated, but it should be the approval of the Independence Day activities. The budget has already been set when you guys approved the budget in the annual budget and allocated the dollars.
Yeah, it says activities.
The agenda didn't get updated online. I just pulled it today.
Oh, thank you.
So every year on Independence Day, there is quite a flurry of activities that happen at Friendship Park and around the library, including the parade. And this is a request because of the dollar amount of all the activities that go on there for the board to approve. We're sticking with Funny Business, who has provided a great service to the community, and everybody seems to really enjoy having them out there. So this is a request for approval to continue on with the celebration.
Make a motion that we consider approval of the Independence Day activities. I have had no complaints from the residents brought up to me about wanting to try something new or unhappy with the way that the petting zoo is run. So with lack of concerns from the residents, I make a motion to approve it.
Support. It's a motion by Trustee Shipley, supported by Treasurer Corstange, to approve the 2025 Independence Day activities as written. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 020-2025, approval of petition to strike delinquent personal property taxes. We've got Financial Director Nancharini here tonight. Thank you.
Good evening, Board Supervisor Jade. Would you prefer me up front or is here okay?
As long as we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Before you is the request for board action. This is an annual activity that the treasurer undertakes statutorily. The General Property Tax Act rules the treasurer's actions. And as part of this action, the treasurer undertakes activities to collect delinquent personal property tax. After 5 years, the General Property Tax Act says that the treasurer shall prepare a proceeding to go to circuit court to request the taxes, delinquent taxes be stricken. The action and request in front of the board tonight does not concern that action that the treasurer is taking. What this action is the board's voluntary decision to waive extra notification as this process goes through the court. The first notification you do need, and it was in the packet, that a letter was sent to the township clerk in January. They say this action is voluntary on behalf of the board. If the board decides not to sign this waiver and consent, the process, the circuit court case will still go on. This is simply streamlining the activity. I can go on more, but it'd probably bore you.
Fascinating. Questions, discussion, motions?
I just have one thing just for you to clarify too,
Please do.
just for people who don't understand the difference between personal property tax and real property tax and who handles those between the township and the county, just so everyone understands. We do collect the most of our taxes, which is real property taxes.
Thank you, Treasurer. And I'm looking around that there is no assessor from the township in the room. So I will be very high level and I'm sure they would cringe. There are two main types of property that receive bills, tax bills. That is real property and personal property. Real property is what a resident would own in a house. It's land, it's a building, it's a house, it's apartments. That is real property. When those, if somebody doesn't pay their real property bill on March 1st, the bills for the last year, the July and December 1st, 2024 bills are turned over to the county treasurer. The county treasurer gathers all those details on the delinquent taxes. They accept the responsibility to collect those real delinquent taxes, and the county pays off every taxing unit. So all taxing units are made whole if residents don't pay real property taxes. And then that collection process and delinquency process goes through a whole different process. And folks could actually lose their homes and property in a foreclosure.
And that's all handled by the county.
And that is handled by the county all through the state and very detailed. Our responsibility in that is turning over our delinquent real property roll and settling with the county. And the county takes that on because they're pretty much guaranteed to get their money back because they can foreclose and auction property. Personal property.
Lauren, just real property,
Yes.
real quick. It might be super basic, but so whose responsibility as far as the different layers of government is it to collect property taxes and to who, for whom do we collect it?
Thank you. The township treasurer, township and city treasurers are responsible for collecting taxes. And they collect it, they send out one tax bill And it has all the taxing jurisdictions on that one bill. Cascade Township sends out one tax bill and collects money for 7 different legal entities. And those 7 entities have sub-entities. Say, for Cascade Township, we say, well, we collect taxes for Cascade Township. Well, that's a fire millage, a police millage, and open space millage. All of those individuals, millages are collectively called Cascade Township. Kent County has probably, boy, I'm thinking 6 or 7 separate millages: early childhood, senior services, veterans, a museum. It goes on.
Public
So-
schools.
Yes, oh, absolutely, sorry, public schools, 3 different school systems, an intermediate school system, Grand Rapids Community College, many school systems. The district library is a separate entity. So all of these entities turn in what they would request to be collected as a millage. It all comes into the township. Our treasurer directs the issuance of the tax bills, mailing of the bills, and collecting and settling up with the county on any delinquent real. Okay, so that's real. Personal is property that typically a resident would not have personal property. That is machinery, inventory. That's items that are found inside a building that a business would use to run their business. That's personal property. There's a whole separate section on how that's reported, how businesses report that. It is typically a little tougher to collect because if a business is in business, they declare property, they receive a bill, they don't pay the bill, and then they go out of business. The township treasurer and staff, if we go to collect on that and knock on a door, chances are it's an empty door. There's nothing left. We can't collect on something that isn't there. So because personal property is so squishy in terms of collection and success of collection, the county treasurer says, you guys do that. And what we do is, again, it was in the RBA as part of the state law. It says the treasurer shall, after 5 years or more, go through this process to strike the uncollectible taxes.
I've gotten complaints from residents who think it's silly, the personal property tax on industrial or commercial real within the buildings. But does the township have the statutory authority to just decide to waive the collection of personal property?
Oh, no, we don't.
So we don't have a choice even if.
The treasurer has statutorily very, very defined duties. And part of this process is the treasurer Kirstange will swear and sign that she has undertaken due diligence to collect these taxes.
So
There's no choice.
when the complaints from residents come in, the appropriate thing to do would be direct them to the state.
We're following law. We're following state. The General Property Tax Act of 1893 as amended.
Good job, Warren. Further discussion?
I had a question. I just, for real property, Lorna, for every $100 we collect, how much of that comes back to the township, would you say?
Typically, the township portion of taxes is anywhere between 9 and 11%.
Does the county property owned by the airport, owned by the county, but ran by the airport authority, do they pay township or any taxes?
You're asking
This is
some
an assessor
detailed,
question.
there
I already know
is,
the,
Supervisor, there is a very specific type of property that is neither real nor personal It's called Building on Leased Land,
Oh, yeah, but-
BLLs.
So the stuff that they don't lease out, just government property, because technically the county owns it, but they're not leasing out that, do they pay taxes on that? No, they don't.
I would assume that they are exempt.
They are as
I
a
am
government.
not the assessor.
But then the only place we can collect property taxes are then when they're leasing out parts of their property to for-profit businesses. Those businesses themselves pay the property taxes. Again, the airport doesn't pay any property taxes.
A tax bill would go to the business that is occupying that leased land, and that is a type of personal tax that is regarded as a personal tax in terms of collection.
So that whole big giant section over there on the south side, they don't pay $1, 1 penny in property taxes.
She's not the assessor.
Yep, I'm sorry, the supervisor. I know the
Probably real
assessor is
close.
already cringing
We
at what
we
I
want to
said.
verify before we answer that question.
Oh, no, I've verified it. We're good.
Okay.
Just want to make a point. Okay, thank you. Further discussion, motions?
Make makes a motion to approve the petition to strike the delinquent property tax, personal property taxes in line with what the state requires us to do.
Support.
It's a motion by trustee Shipley, supported by trustee Rizzi to approve the petition to strike delinquent property taxes, personal property taxes. All in favor?
Sorry, I just
Aye.
want to make sure. Sorry. This was the action requested. I just want to make sure it's
Just
worded correctly.
going
Thank you.
Because I've already, my duty is to strike them. That is the actual request.
Would it be fair to say, trustee Shipley, that your motion would be to authorize the township clerk to sign the waiver and consent form for striking the 2019 delinquent personal property taxes?
Absolutely, since I don't have to sign it, yes.
And I'll
Would it be
support
accurate to
that.
say that?
Accurate. Jeez.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Public comments, Article 11. Anything, whether it's on tonight's agenda or not. Thank you for coming in person. We appreciate it.
Good evening. I'm Melissa Engel. I reside at 2485 Burton Woods Court with my husband. He's back there. Okay, first of all, we just want to thank you for the continued investment and care of our Cascade parks and green spaces. They're invaluable assets for our community. They offer numerous benefits that enhance both physical and mental health and foster social connections. We have visited every Cascade Park multiple times, always with our dog on a leash, I will know. And each one offers a unique experience. We live a stone's throw from Burton Woods or Burton Park and are there multiple times a week, all 4 seasons. We recognize the collective efforts by both the Township Board, the Sheriff's Office. I just had to add that because it was not in there. Sorry. Parks and Recreation Department, community volunteers to care for these spaces, including everything from removing the oak wilt and the invasive bittersweet planting milkweed to attract the butterflies and clearing the paths after storms, as well as the recent repairs and improvements on the road easement going in through Burton Park. We are very appreciative of the newly posted hours, which allow us to feel more comfortable continuing our walks before and after our workday. In December, we had an incident where a resident that lives along the park easement cornered us in her SUV. We were walking on the road, telling us we were trespassing at 6 p.m. at night because we were walking on private property or her road or driveway. We were on the road. We contacted the township the next day. We heard immediately back from Dan Zwick, who clarified that we were within our rights to walk on the pavement. The enhanced hours recently posted certainly accommodate the majority of our community that are otherwise working between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. So I just want to say thank you very much and keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Good evening. I'm Randy Goebel. I live at 2841 Hayward Drive Southeast, and I'm here primarily just to say thank you for what you do. I moved here 25 years ago with my wife and kids from Toledo, Ohio, thanks to a job from X-Rite way over there in Granville. Started looking for houses. We scoured all of Kent County, parts of Ottawa County, and chose to live here. And I'm so glad we did. One of the earliest shining moments I can remember is when my wife Julie took Ben and Emily here to the library to get their library cards. When I came home from work, they met me in the driveway. So we got our library cards. So that was really wonderful. I didn't realize then that eventually I would work at the library. I work at Kent District Library up at Kemstock Park. But I just want to say, again, thank you for what you do, for leading the community, helping to serve the community. I chose this because there's a long legacy of this being just a great place for families. I appreciate it. And I appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Any virtual comments?
Hello, Scott Van Salkema. How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. I was curious regarding is there a certain amount of attendance that people on various boards are supposed to have when they get on the boards? The only reason I'm asking is because the planning commission last week were failed to meet a quorum, and then they had a special meeting this week and only 4 people were there. So they just barely got it. Also, I've been to a few other meetings where, again, people aren't there. So, I mean, I know they're volunteer positions, but still, if they're on the board, they should show up. So that was my question regarding that. Also, is there any new news from the township, and not township, the county regarding the deer issue still? Just the other day, I had 8 deer in my backyard. I live right in the village, and again, spent a good half hour just scooping up deer feces out of my backyard. And I can't even let my dog back there because of the amount of deer. So again, and again, I know it's not a township only problem. That's why I'm asking if there's been any more work on that or any more information. Just, they're nice to see occasionally, but when you're seeing them every day, it's ridiculous. And again, the parks, I'm glad you guys are going to be doing some things on Rec Park. But again, I was at Rec Park earlier, last week, walking my dog. And again, the pathway walking is always busy. I always pass people on there. And again, I believe Clerk Slater has mentioned that it's, we don't need everything done, but if we update some things and that the path there it's crumbling in very many spots. And obviously, if we are going to be able to do the parking lots, and they said if we're doing asphalt to, maybe tie that in at the same time. I know there's a limited amount of funds, and the whole shebang is $10 million, which I don't think we need a whole $10 million refresh of that park. And again, I would implore you guys to also talk with Wally Bujak, since we have no Kent County parks and a good, I don't know how many acres of, that park is owned by the county. Maybe we can get some money for them to update that part. So then we're not doing it all on our own. So yes, those are my comments and concerns. So thank you all.
Thank you.
For listening. Yes.
I do this right this time. Richard Shaftsma, 2471 Burton Woods Court. I echo what our neighbor said about the parks and being open later. I'm looking forward to going a walk after the township meeting tonight. So thank you for extending those hours. Within the park, removal of invasive species, plant species, I think is great. I came aware that we're using Roundup to remove some of those invasive species, and I'm sure we use other chemicals. I would encourage the township to look at other alternatives than an acutely toxic chemical, not only for our groundwater, but our animals, birds, but also the person who's spraying it, right? Like these are things that are known cancer-causing agents, forever chemicals, and they might think it's not a big deal. Not saying they do or don't, but years down the road, this can come back to us as well, as it's a cancer-causing agent. So if in our parks, we could really look at what chemicals we're using and safe alternatives. MSU has great ag school. They can help out. Grand Valley has resources. So thank you.
Thank you. Manager comments.
Thank you, Supervisor. A couple things tonight. I'll address a couple things that were asked about in regards to the deer. I do have an update. I came back from a few days away to an email from the county. There's a website that's dedicated to the progress. It's kentcountymi.gov/deer. We're going to be getting this word out. We just got the email. I think it was Friday. So we will be getting that information out, and that's going to have the progress of what the county efforts are in the study they're doing with Grand Valley. In regards to boards and commissions and meeting quorum, there are bylaws for some of our boards and commissions working towards 100% compliance and getting boards or bylaws. And then in there is a process, and it talks through the attendance policy for board members. We do work with the Kent Conservation Club and the MSU Extension, and we actually have a specific contract with a specialist, and I forget who she's with, but she specializes in oak wilt. So we do try and do the most natural way of getting rid of those invasive species as possible. But we'll duly noted, and I'll pass that on to our Parks and Rec Director. Just because I opened up a can of worms at the last meeting, I want to follow up. We did have a meeting, and because the Sheriff's Office is here, in regards to Jake breaks with the Kent County Road Commission, Township Engineer, myself, the Sheriff's Office, and there's a couple of things were brought up. One, we need to tighten up some of our language in our ordinance to make everybody happy. We're going to work with the Sheriff's Office on some more targeted patrols and visiting the businesses that are probably the biggest violators. They look a little different than we do when we walk in. They carry a little bit more weight. So hopefully their communication will go further. And then one of the biggest things is the county is actually reviewing the possibility of signs, regardless of what was said before. There is not one township in the county that actually has no Jake break signs. So if they did it, they then are opening up a can of worms for them, and they have to have a pretty Loctite procedure as to how they'll evaluate where those will go. The meeting went into some deep conversations about decibel meters and things like that. So it was a pretty good meeting. I don't know if Omar, Kate, if you guys have any more to share, but we are working towards that. But as of right now, the Sheriff's Office is not allowing the signs.
Did they get into Jade if there's no sign that states that particular law, if the sheriffs are still allowed to enforce it?
Not necessarily. I think you answered that question, didn't you, Omar?
Correct. Yeah, just because as long as there's an ordinance saying that it's a violation, you're not required to have the sign. It's just nice that it's posted. Familiar with Cascade Township ordinances, it helps identify that it is an ordinance and that they can't violate that.
That makes sense. Like, do not murder. You have to post that. Board comments. Trustee
I had one more, because it's been a big topic as well. If you saw the Facebook post today, crews are out making changes to the fields and updates and getting the fields ready at Rec Park for the spring. So I'm pretty excited to see what's happening out there.
Any updates on the library refresh or timeframes?
Everything's moving as it should. I think they're right on schedule. We'll have the furniture bids back before you for approval at the next meeting. And then hopefully that timing, it all correlates and the furniture comes in before the open date. So, but so far Carbon 6 has been great to work with. Lulu and her team have been doing a great job working with Dan and facilities. So everything's moving right along.
Thanks.
And upgrades to the Wisner as well. We've been discussing.
Trustee Shipley?
Gee, thanks, boss. Thanks for coming out tonight. Appreciate it. Deputies, really appreciate you. I've been living in the township since 1968. I know some of you have been around longer, but I've never felt more secure in my personal safety and property safety or the financial safety of the township. We got a watchdog over here and she knows the laws. She doesn't need a choker chain on her because she takes care of business.
She's well trained.
Thanks for coming out. Really appreciate it. A couple things going on. Our fire department works very closely with surrounding fire departments. It's called mutual aid. And they've been just besieged, helping each other out. So I'd like to see sometime included in the consent agenda, maybe what the fire department has done on mutual aid, helping others or having others come in. I understand last week they even had the airport respond to a structure fire. So, you know, to have the crash fire rescue truck respond outside of the airport, that's something. So I would like to see that included in the consent agenda. And, oh, don't forget, starting Monday, there's gonna be some lane changes out on the bridge because being on schedule, they're gonna complete that safety issue and do the other side of the bridge for pedestrian safety. That's all I have.
See Nordic.
Nordike.
No, sorry. Trustee Rizzi.
I had a comment tonight. I think I briefly mentioned this before, but I wanted to elaborate a little. I know occasionally citizens come in and ask questions about certain things, maybe with a property not meeting code or something along those lines. And I know Ryan is our zoning administrator, and I'd like to see that department perhaps make a monthly report to the board. It could just be included in the packet. But something that staff could look at and that the public could see that would show what complaints were made in a previous time frame. If anybody, how those complaints were handled, if there was a citation issued, if it was resolved just with a phone call, just to give us a brief summary. Lowell Township does this, and if you look on their website, you can see each month the Planning Commission and the Township Board on their agenda. There's a link you can click, and it gives you the specifics. But that's kind of, I call it their Office of Ordinance Enforcement, and I think it would be a benefit to everyone if we had that. I think it helps everybody to know how to answer those questions uniformly.
Trustee Nord Cook,
I'm good.
Clerk Slater,
No comments.
Treasurer Corsange.
No comments.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion to
Oh, sorry.
adjourn.
Just one quick update. You had asked about the fire department. They're actually coming at the next meeting to present their annual report.
Oh, good.
So they get all that information.
I'll be taking notes.
I'm sure.
Trustee Shipley, what were we talking about? The mutual aid, did we go on to the onto the airport to help with the
No,
fire?
apparently,
Oh,
It was the structure fire. over the
Yeah.
weekend.
They
Got it.
did Kentwood and Grand Rapids.
Lowell and Caledonia also.
There was a
so-
mess of them.
Well, it had the potential to be pretty big.
So I'd like to know, we have spent the most money on that one department for the benefit of our most valuable assets, and that's the residents out here. And I just want to make sure that our residents, being our bosses also, get the most for their money. And that if there's more money that needs to be spent, that we identify that. That's all, just the fire department reports go into the Michigan Incident Reporting System. And I'm pretty sure from when I was back there years ago, that you can extrapolate any data that you want, like the calls assists to other departments or other departments assisting you, who, what, when, and where. So it should be pretty simple.
fantastic. Thank you. Further discussion, motions?
Motion.
I made a motion to adjourn.
Oh, did anyone second it?
Support.
It's a motion by Clerk Slater, supported by Trustee Rizzi to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
We are adjourned. Thank you. Thanks for coming tonight too.